Welcome back to another class on Halacha for women. We are in the sefer called Otzar Dinim by Rabbi Yosef Shlita. Before seeing the Halacha inside of his book today, I want to go over with you today a piece of Gemara and to see what the Shulchan Aruch says, and then we'll have a better understanding of what Rabbi Yosef Shlita has to say. The Gemara Masechet Berachot and Avchav Amur Aleph, that's side 1, page 20, brings down over there in the Gemara, the last line in the Gemara begins with a new Mishnah, and the Mishnah states, Nashim v'avadim ukitanim piturim mikri shema min tefillin. Women and slaves and children are exempt from kriya shema and from putting on tefillin. V'chayavim b'tefila u'b'mezuzah u'b'berkat hamazon. Nevertheless, women, children, and slaves are obligated in davening Shemona Esrei. They are obligated in affixing a mezuzah if they live by themselves, and they are all obligated in saying Birkat HaMazon. The Gemara asks a question, Ubi Birkat HaMazon Peshita. The Gemara makes a statement which is not clear. The Gemara says, I don't understand. Why did you have to go out of your way and teach me that a woman is obligated in Birkat HaMazon? Let me ask you a question. A guy, if he went ahead and he ate a kazait of bread, is he obligated in Birkat HaMazon? 100%. So why should a woman be different if she ate, just like she has an obligation to bless the before blessing of Hamotzi, she has an obligation to wash her hands of Al Yadayim. So why would I think that she does not have an obligation of saying Birkat HaMazon? That is what the Gemara is being bothered at this point. The Gemara says, Birkat HaMazon Pshita, by when it comes to Birkat HaMazon, it is simple that a woman is obligated in saying Birkat HaMazon. You don't have to tell me that. So really the question is, why did the Mishnah, when it said over here, Nashim va'avadim uketanim chayavin b'tefila u'b'mezuzah u'b'berkat hamazon? Why? Tell me a woman is obligated in tefillah or in the mezuzah, but why did you have to tell me that she's also obligated in Birkat HaMazon? Without the Mishnah stating that a woman is obligated in Birkat HaMazon, I would know that fact. So comes the Gemara, and the Gemara says, I'll tell you why it had to be written. Ma'u detema, I would have thought to say, Ho'ilu ketiv, since it's written in the Torah, Betet Hashem lachem be'er basar lechol, ve'lechem babokir lisboa. Since it says in the pasuk that Hashem is going to give to you in the evening meat to eat and bread in the morning to be satiated with, kim mitzvot aseh shazman gramadami. It's comparable to a time-bound mitzvah, and we know time-bound mitzvot, women are exempt from them. Kamash Malan comes the Gemara to teach you that this is not the case. So let me say it in my own words before we continue in the Gemara. The Gemara asks a question. When it comes to Birkat HaMazon, the Mishnah did not have to write women are obligated in Birkat HaMazon, because without the Mishnah I would know that. The Gemara says no. You would have a very great misconception if it would not have been for the Mishnah writing women are obligated in Birkat HaMazon. Why? Because the pasuk says that Hashem is going to give to you in the evening meat to eat, and in the morning bread to be satiated with. Now when I say evening meat, morning bread, so we see over here, what causes one to eat the bread is the day. So you would have thought from this pasuk, it's as if it's a time-bound mitzvah. So you're right, a woman has to wash her hands for bread. She has to say Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. But since there is a pasuk in the Torah that says that Hashem is going to give you in the evening meat to eat and in the morning bread to be satiated from, I would have thought to say, because of this pasuk, it's as if it's like a time-bound mitzvah and women should be exempt from Birkat HaMazon. Comes the Gemara says, absolutely not. Don't learn it like that. Even with this pasuk, comes the Mishnah and tells you a woman is obligated in Birkat HaMazon. So basically what the Mishnah was telling us, the Mishnah is telling us like this: if it wouldn't have been for Rabbi Yehuda Nasi writing that women are obligated in Birkat HaMazon, you would have thought you are exempt. That's why the Mishnah needed to actually write, women are chayav in Birkat Hamazon, because otherwise I would have thought they are exempt. Now, that is one part of the Gemara. Now that we know that a woman is obligated in Birkat Hamazon, their obligation in Birkat Hamazon, is it from the Torah or is it from the rabbis? Now you might ask yourself a question, why do I care? Which the Gemara is going to ask. We'll see. Why do we care if it's from the Torah or from the rabbis? Bottom line, you have to do it. So Rabotai, I put it to you like this. There are many cases and it's applicable to many laws. I'm not going to go through everything right now. It's just not the time for this. But you have to understand, whenever you have a halacha which is from the Torah, we're more strict. Whenever you have a halacha from the rabbis, we're more lenient. For example, if a guy is sitting on, let's say, Friday night, on Shabbat night, he's sitting with his family. Now, you know, the wife benched, she got up, she went to sleep. The kids all benched, they got up, they went all to sleep. So now the husband is sitting at the table. He opens the siddur. He's about to bench, Birkat Hamazon, and he falls asleep, which happens a lot of times. I've been to many people's houses. People knock out. It's nuts. During Birkat Hamazon. So right, they start Birkat Hamazon, but now they're sleeping. So now when they wake up, they have nobody to ask. Did I say Birkat Hamazon or did I not say Birkat Hamazon? So since when it comes to a guy, since the mitzvah of Birkat Hamazon is from the Torah, we're going to tell you, Safek de'oraita l'chumra, since we have a doubt if you fulfilled your mitzvah from the Torah or not, we're going to tell you to be stringent, meaning go back and re-bless the whole Birkat Hamazon. But let's go the other way, Rabotai. What happens if it was a woman? Okay, we'll see what the halacha is going to say. But let's say if it's a woman. A woman, she opened the siddur. Now she was about to begin saying Birkat Hamazon. Whatever it is, she dozed off. Now she wakes up and she doesn't have anyone to ask, did I say Birkat Hamazon or did I not say Birkat Hamazon? Since we'll see the halacha is going to say we don't know if it's from the Torah or from the rabbis, we're going to say that it's a doubt. Safik derabban, whenever you have a doubt and we're dealing with rabbinical laws, we're going to tell you, Lukula, be lenient, meaning don't go back and bless. That is one of the halachot. Or I give you another example that you can relate to, where everybody can relate to. When it comes to saying Kriyat Shema, for example, a woman is not obligated in Kriyat Shema. A man is obligated in Kriyat Shema. A man has an obligation in Kriyat Shema from the Torah. So if I wake up in the morning and I decided to go, for whatever reason, go daven, now I ask myself, one second, did I say Kriyat Shema today? Okay, maybe I'm a very bad example because that's not a good example. Because if I'm davening the whole davening, I won't have this doubt because the Gemara, the Shulchan Aruch goes into through this whole discussion. Did you say the brachot or not? Let me take myself out of the equation. Let's say a person who's accustomed to putting on tefillin for whatever reason in the afternoon, before sunset. Let's say he's a doctor, I don't know. So he has to say Shema prior. There's a time, there's a cutoff time up to when he could say Kriyat Shema. So you know what happens? You know, he wakes up in the morning, he says Birkat Shachar, whatever it might be, and now throughout the morning, he says, one second, did I say Kriyat Shema or not? He has nobody to ask if he said it or not. What is the halacha going to tell him? Since Kriyat Shema is from the Torah, we're going to tell him he has to go back. Safig de'oraita l'chumra. Whenever you have a doubt and you're dealing with a halacha which is from the Torah, which Shema is from the Torah, we're going to tell you to be stringent and go back and say the whole Shema again. Just like Birkat Hamazon. Those are the two mitzvot which are from the Torah. However, what happens if this would be a case with a woman? She doesn't remember if she said Kriyat Shema or not. Big deal. A woman's not obligated. Yeah, it's nice for her to say it, but she's not obligated. So the question doesn't even begin. I'll give you one more example for you guys to understand better. You have a person, you have a guy, he went into the restroom to take care of his knees. He made number one, number two, doesn't matter. You know how it is. You go, you wash your hands. By the time you know it, somebody calls you, your kids from there, your wife from there. Now you don't remember if you said Asher Yatar or not. What is the halacha going to say? Do you say Asher Yatar or don't you say Asher Yatar? So the halacha is going to tell us, Safek derabban lekula. Since you have a doubt in a rabbinical halacha, because to bless Asher Yatar is from the rabbis, we're going to tell you to be lenient. And that is not to bless Asher Yatar. So too for a woman. Or if a person had, let's say he had a cup of water, he was drinking coffee, or if he was eating an apple. In the middle of the eating, he doesn't remember if he said the blessing on the drink or on the food. What's Allah going to say? Safek derabanan lekula. Again, whenever you have a doubt and you're dealing with rabbinical laws, the berachot are from the rabbis. We're going to tell to be lenient and not go back and bless. So that's what Rabotai, we want to understand over here. A woman's obligation in Birkat HaMazon, is it from the Torah or is it from the rabbis? We'll see, the Gemara is going to go on to explain. We're going to see like another case to why we need to know if a woman, her obligation, is it from the Torah or from the rabbis. The Gemara is going to bring that down. I don't want to touch upon it because he's going to say it now. So the Gemara continues and he says like this. Amale Ravina le Rava. Ravina said to Rava, Nashim beberkat hamazon deoraita or derabana. What I was asking this whole time. The Gemara is from the Gemara. Ravina asked from Rava, woman, when it comes to saying the blessing of Birkat HaMazon, is it from the Torah or is it from the rabbis? The Gemara says, I don't understand. What practical halacha is going to come out from this? Meaning to say, what do I care if it's from the Torah or from the rabbis? The bottom line is, she's obligated to say it. The Gemara said, I'll tell you why we need to know if a woman is from the Torah, meaning is her obligation from the Torah or from the rabbis, because we need to know, we need to know, can a woman go ahead and take out somebody else's obligation in Birkat HaMazon? For example, the Gemara is going to bring down her husband or her older son. The father doesn't know how to say, meaning her husband does not know how to say Birkat HaMazon, or he's not doing well, or whatever the situation might be. Can a woman go ahead and say Birkat HaMazon, and the husband's going to be listening to the wife saying Birkat HaMazon? It's as when he's listening, it's as if he's saying it. So therefore he fulfills the obligation. This is what we want to go ahead and we want to discuss this now. So the Gemara says, it comes out good if you're going to tell me a woman's obligations from the Torah. Comes a woman whose obligation level is from the Torah and is going to take out another person, let's say her husband's obligation, which is also from the Torah. That makes sense. But if you're going to tell me, but if you're going to tell me that a woman's obligation for Birkat HaMazon is from the rabbis, it's as if she's not obligated in it. Meaning to say, from the rabbi she's obligated, but from the Torah she's not obligated. As long as she's not obligated from the Torah, but only from the rabbis, she's not able to go ahead and take out other people's obligation. We need to understand like this. We're trying to understand right now, is a woman's obligation to recite Birkat HaMazon, is it from the Torah or is it from the rabbis? Why do we have to know this? Because if you have a woman who's sitting in the house, can she take out her husband's obligation in Birkat HaMazon or her older son or her older daughter when they're over 13 and 12? The daughter we have to take out because daughters wouldn't be a problem. It's the boy that's going to be a problem. So comes the Gemara says, if you want to tell me that a woman's obligation in Birkat HaMazon is from the Torah, I can understand. A woman's level is on a biblical level, and a guy is on a biblical level and saying Birkat HaMazon, good, she could go ahead and fulfill his obligation. It both make sense. But if you tell me right now that a woman's obligation is from the rabbis, and the guy's obligation is from the Torah, how can something which is from the rabbis, or let's say in this level, take out somebody over here which is from the Torah? That cannot happen. It's like me telling you right now, let your son who's 10 years old fulfill Kiddush for you on Shabbat. That can't happen. He is on a rabbinical level of chinuch, of education. You are on a D'oraita level of doing Kiddush. One cannot work with the other. So that's what we're still trying to understand. Is a woman Is a woman's obligation in Birkat Hamazon from the Torah or from the rabbis? Comes the Gemara says, 1 second. The Gemara says, listen, okay, fine, you told me. If it's from the Torah, so comes a woman who's on a biblical level and she fulfills another guy's obligation, let's say her husband or her older boy who's 13 years and up, who's also on a biblical level. Okay, they're both on the same level, so she can go ahead and fulfill his obligation. But that makes sense. But if you're going to tell me she's on a rabbinical level and they're on a biblical level, how can she take out their obligation? She cannot. The Gemara says, so the Gemara says, okay, go ahead, tell me, what's going to be the halacha? I need to know the halacha. Is a woman's obligation from the Torah to recite Birkat Hamazon, or is it from the rabbis? The Gemara says, Tashma, come and learn. Come and hear. Be'emet amru. In truth, they said, Ben mevarech ala aviv. Rashi says, what does it mean, ben? Ben meaning katan. A boy who's under the age of 13 is able to bless Birkat Hamazon for his father. Im en aviv yodei levarech. If the father does not know how to bless, the son, meaning the minor, is able to go ahead and bless for his father Birkat Hamazon. Ve'eved mevarech lerabo. And also his servant is able to go ahead and bless Birkat Hamazon for his master. Again, if the master does not know how to recite Birkat Hamazon. Because we saw in the Mishnah, an Eved is obligated in Birkat Hamazon. Here we go. Ve'isha mivarechet leba'ala. A woman is allowed to bless Birkat Hamazon on behalf of her husband. Again, we're speaking about a situation where the husband does not know how to recite Birkat Hamazon. Aval amru chachamim. However, the chachamim said, the rabbis of blessed memory said, Tavo me'era le'adam chas v'sham lo leinu. May a curse come to the man. She'ishto ubanav miverachin lo. That if he has his wife or a child which is a minor that are blessing for him, meaning they are taking out his obligation, Birkat Hamazon. Rashi Masechet Sukkot says, why is the curse? Why? I don't get it. Is it allowed or is it not allowed? Of course it's allowed. So why should he be cursed? So Rashi Masechet Sukkot explains because the father has an obligation to learn how to read. I mean, today, Baruch Hashem, with all these translation, with all these books that we have today, there's no reason for why a person wouldn't be able to say Birkat Hamazon. So it's very important that every single guy, if unfortunately he doesn't know how to read or whatever the situation might be, Rabotai, he has to learn how to read. You're right, a woman, his wife can go ahead and she can do Birkat Hamazon for him. His minor son can go ahead and he can do Birkat Hamazon. But the bottom line is, even though they are able to do it, nevertheless the Chachamim said, because you did not want to learn, may a curse come on you for having your wife and your son take out your obligation in Birkat Hamazon. Continues the Gemara. And the Gemara says, so let me just go ahead and let me say it outside, just to be able to make sense with the Gemara. So we see from over here, we ask a question, is a woman's obligation from the Torah or from the rabbis? So the Gemara said, listen, a son is able to bless for his father. Again, a minor is able to bless for his father who does not know how to recite Birkat Hamazon. A slave is able to bless for his master who does not know how to recite Birkat Hamazon. And this is what we want to focus on. And a woman is able to go ahead and bless on behalf of her husband who does not know how to bless Birkat Hamazon. So comes the Gemara says, it comes out good if the woman's level in saying Birkat Hamazon is on a D'oraita level, on the biblical level, it makes sense. Ati D'oraita, Mapik D'oraita. It makes sense that you have a woman who's on a biblical level. She comes and she takes out a person, her husband, which is on a biblical level. That's what the Gemara says. A woman is able to bless on behalf of her husband because she's from the Torah and he's from the Torah. That's what they make good couple. That's what she's able to go ahead and say Birkat Hamazon on his behalf. However, he says, but if you're going to tell me right now that a woman's level, a woman's obligation, because the mazon is only from the rabbis, that doesn't make sense. How could the Chachamim say that a woman is able to bless on behalf of her husband? What? Adi diraban umafik doraita? Could it be that a woman who's on a rabbinical level come out and take an obligation out from her husband, which is on a doraita level, biblical level? That cannot be the case. So we see over here what? That if I say a woman is from the Torah, if I say that a woman's obligation is from the Torah, the Gemara makes sense why it says a woman is able to bless on behalf of her husband, because they're both on the Torah level. But if I tell you that a woman's level is on the rabbinical level, it doesn't make sense. Why would the Gemara tell me that a woman is able to take out her husband's obligation if she's here and he's over here? That cannot be the case. So the way we're understanding it now is we're seeing that a woman's obligation in benching Birkat Mazon is from the Torah.